Hello and good morning. Let us continue our first chapter, that is Cold War Era, from your class 12 textbook Contemporary War Politics. Today we will discuss the emergence of two superpower bloc, Iron Curtain, influence of two superpower. Now, so far we had seen that after the end of the Second World War, the war got divided between the two rival blocs headed by two superpowers, that is the US on the western side and USSR on eastern side. This east-west divide was on the basis of ideological and alliance with two power blocs. Now the alliance or alliances of two power blocs appears first in Europe. The US, that is the United States of America, and those who aligns with well called the Western Alliance, all those together form NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The NATO members will cite in contrast to the East side, those who are bound together by the Warsaw Pact, and Warsaw Pact was called as Eastern Bloc. Now, interestingly, Europe became the main contention or arena of two superpower blocs. The division also appear on geography or maps of Europe. Let's see the map. From this slide, from the map, as we see, the red line passes through the middle of the Europe continent and this line divide between east and west of Europe is called as an iron curtain. This iron curtain run through the middle of Europe, dividing it clearly, as we see from the map, between the two rival blocs under the occupation of two superpowers. So, former Prime Minister Winston Churchill has mentioned when he delivered a speech on 5th of March in 1956, he mentioned about this iron curtain clearly. I quote, "From Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic Sea, an iron curtain has descended across the continent." That means it implies this Winston Churchill, former British Prime Minister, speech implies that the divide between East and West part of the Europe. So in order to assert their superiority, the superpower will also continuously calculating their gain. And they will in a contrast struggle to bring the smaller nations within their ambit of umbrella. And they will, because of the associations with superpower, smaller nation also got the promise of military help and promise of protection from enemy, supplies of weapons, equipment, and economic aids or assistance against their local rivals, mostly regional neighbors with whom they had competing often. Now let us look at the formation or emergence of two power bloc. That is, Europe was devastated by years of conflict of World War II. Millions of people were killed or wounded in the World War. The only major power in the war that was only not much damage because of the war was the United States of America, US. And it was geographically isolated, and the center of the war was located at Europe. And therefore, the USA enjoyed the distance. Industries and residential areas in most of the cities in Europe particularly in England, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Belgium, elsewhere were ruined completely. They were destroyed. Much of the Europe was on the brink of famines, as agricultural production has also been disrupted because of the war. Infrastructure, example, rail, road or transportation was in shambles. Now, as we see from the map, we have seen that Europe was completely divided into two camps or two blocks. The yellow portion of the country from the left side is occupied by USA, who are the signatory members of NATO. They are the members of NATO. And on the other side, in the Eastern Europe, the country which is shown as red colors are members of the Warsaw Pact, which is led by USSR. So therefore, because of that complete ruins or complete devastation of the war in Europe continent, so in order to rebuild the ruins economy, a Marshall Plan was initiated or proposed by US Secretary of State George C. Marshall, officially known as European Recovery Program (ERP). The Marshall Plan was this Marshall Plan was intended to rebuild the ruins economy of Western Europe. Primarily, it is also known as Marshall Plan because of the name of the US Secretary of State George C. Marshall. In 1948, Marshall issued a comprehensive programs to rebuild Europe. Marshall was convinced that key to restoration of political stability of the world is to revitalization of national economy, Europe. Further, Marshall saw that political stability in Western Europe is a key to counter the advancement of communism in this region. So, he advocated for economic aid or packages to Europe. This is called as Marshall Plan. Now, Marshall Plan nations were offered great assistance in their effort for economic recovery after their economic ruins due to devastating of World War II. As a result of Marshall Plan, economic aid that was given to them from 1948 onward were up until the middle of the 1950s. European economy grew and in an unprecedented rate. And the war, as we see, the war was divided into two rival blocks or two camps. That is Western Alliance led by US and Eastern Alliance led by USSR. So the Western Alliance was formalized into an organization that is the Non-Atlantic Treaty Organization, which came into existence in April 1949. It was an association of 12 states which declared that armed attack on any of them in Europe or North America would be regarded as an attack on all of them. Each of these states would be obliged to help the other. The Eastern Alliance, known as the Warsaw Pact, was led by the Soviet Union. It was created in 1955 and its principal function was to counter the NATO forces in Europe. And the Soviet Union used its influence in the Eastern Europe, backed by their very large presence of its armies in the countries of regions, to ensure that the eastern half of Europe remained within its sphere of influence. On the other hand, on the other side, in East and Southeast Asia, in West Asia, Middle East, the United States built an alliance system core SEATO, that is Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, and CENTO, Central Treaty Organization. The Soviet Union and Communist China responded by having close relations with regional countries such as North Vietnam, South Korea, and Iraq, etc. So the Cold War threatened to divide the world into two alliances. Under these circumstances, many of the newly independent countries, after gaining their independence from the colonial power, such as Britain, France, were worried that they would lose their freedom as soon as they gained former independence. So that is why how the world was divided into two rival camps or two rival blocs after the end of the Second World War, and Europe became the center. That is, Europe became the center of contention or arenas of this Cold War. That is why it is known as Iron Curtain, which divided Europe into two halves. And how the emergence of the influence of or the two superpower and the emergence of two superpower in the world. So let us end our discussion for today. Have a good day.